Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles, and every Saturday afternoon at 2:30 I make a short video, 5 or 10 minutes in length, about some aspect of life coaching or the hypnotic arts and sciences. Today is a little bit personal. I want to talk about how I get stuff done. Now, I'm both a high energy and a fairly intensely organized person, and I've been told over the years that that can be a pretty fearsome combination. But I use a formal system to keep track of all of my many different responsibilities. Uh, I use what's called the Getting Things Done system of time management guru David Allen. And he has a book of that title, Getting Things Done, available everywhere. He has a number of books out, but that's the one to start with. I've used his system for about 40 years now. Now, I've used other systems over the decades, but this is by far the most effective I have ever found. Now, David Allen's idea is do not use your head, do not use your brain to store information. Don't trust your memory. Instead, get information that you need to keep track of out of your head and put it into some very simple but trusted system. So he calls this a brain dump. Get it out of your head into a system. Now that system needs to be so simple you can maintain it, as he says, on a rainy Monday morning when you have a bad flu. If it's any more complicated than that, you will ultimately stop updating it, it will leak information, and you can't trust it. Years ago, I used to experiment with the Franklin Planner system, and I even used their software called Ascend. It was really a burden because it involved constantly listing and relisting and recopying things, and you're not going to maintain a system like that. It's got to be really, really dirt simple. So what Alan recommends is first a calendar, of course, to keep track of your appointments and the things that have to be done on a specific day. But then you create a series of lists, and the lists are considered context lists. They're based upon where you would have to be or what you would have to have available to do anything on that list. So I have a calls list. But there's no point in looking at it if I don't have time to return any calls. I have an office list, things I can do only when I'm in my office. I have an anywhere list, things I can do no matter where I am, provided I have my smartphone. I have an errands list, things I can do when I'm running errands, so I don't forget to pick up things that I need at the various stores, and so on and so on and so on. The context lists save you time and effort. Because once something's on its appropriate list, you don't look at it again until you're in that context and can actually do some of the things that are on that list. Another concept he has, I should mention you could get paper copies of this. You could do it on index cards if you wanted. There are lots of different software programs available for getting things done. They all work. It's a matter of personal preference. The other concept that David Allen uses is about the inbox, which is a very powerful time management tool. Now, his rule is have as few inboxes as possible, but as many as you need. Because you're going to get to inbox zero, that is, you're going to process everything in that inbox. So you don't want to have a whole bunch of them because it's going to take too long to process it. And again, you're probably not going to do that reliably. You're going to start stacking stuff instead of processing it, and the system will fall apart. I have one physical inbox. It's here on my desk. Anything that is physical, a piece of paper, a book, that I need to process goes in there. So if I'm looking for something, it's either already in my system or it's in the inbox waiting to be processed. It can't be anywhere else. I never put stuff I'm working on anywhere else but in the inbox. I have an outbox, of course, with a subfolder for documents that have to be shredded. I have a pending box for the things I need to do that day, client files, that sort of stuff. And I have a box that has color-coded folders for the various stages of hypnotic scripts that I'm in the process of creating. but I've got one physical inbox. I've got one electronic inbox for emails. Now, I've got multiple email accounts, but they all forward to that one electronic inbox. That way, if I'm looking for an email, it's there, or it's in one of the tags or folders under that. I've got one voicemail inbox. I've got several phone numbers that I can be reached at, but they all forward to one voicemail inbox. Keep it simple. Now, what you do when you're doing David Allen's system is you also have something called a ubiquitous capture device. That is, you're in the process of walking around your house and you get an idea that's something you got to do. You should have on you at all times something that you can use to write that down and then put it in your inbox so it can be processed. And he actually has a little wallet with an expandable pen that he sells on his website. I personally use my smartphone, as I am a hard of hearing person and I wear hearing aids that interact with my smartphone. It's always with me. Every week, you do what he calls the weekly review. And when people get in trouble with David Allen's system, that's typically because they've stopped doing their weekly review. I do this on Sunday. The first thing you do is you process all of your inboxes. You go through all the stuff that's there. If it's 2 minutes or less to do, you just do it. But if it's longer than that, you don't do it. You put it into your system and put a note about that on the proper list. So I might drop it in a file folder and then on the appropriate list for, say, Office, where it's filed and what it is. When I use my context lists as kind of the central dashboard of organizing my life. So you get all your inboxes to zero. Then you do a brain dump. And what you do with the brain dump is you get anything you can think of that you haven't written down out of your head and into the system. Then you review your projects. Now, David Allen considers a project to be something that requires more than one step. Each step is a task. The tasks are on the context lists. Projects have their own separate projects list that you just review during your weekly review to be sure you have at least one task for every project on the appropriate list. So that's it. A simple, trusted system. A simple set of lists and a calendar. The context lists keep it simple and prevent wasted energy. As few inboxes as possible. A ubiquitous capture device. And the weekly review. And this system has made me more effective than I ever thought I could be. I can keep track of everything. If I get myself overcommitted, I can look at my lists, including my project lists, and decide what I need to renegotiate, what I need to drop. But I have a central control board in my time and task management system that lets me know where I am with everything that I've got on my plate. So that's David Allen's system. I really recommend it. You could go to his website, davidco.com. I've got a couple of URLs, and he actually has a description of the 5 basic steps of his system. If you want to use software or notebook systems, he sells configuration guides, which I do recommend very highly. And I've used a number of pieces of software. I'm currently using OmniFocus, which is probably more horses than most people need. So check it out. I will be back next week with another talk, and I'm going to do something very different. I'm going to talk about the use of pendulums and dowsing. I think that might be kind of fun. If I can be of help to you, please feel free to reach out through my website or through email or messenger. And we do have a Patreon channel. And if you want a deeper engagement with my work, you can become a patron on Patreon and see videos that I make only for the patrons. For example, next week, I'll be talking here on YouTube about the use of a pendulum. But on Patreon, for my patrons, I'm actually going to give you a tour of my personal pendulum collection. Got quite a few. Take care and do well.